The first time I ever met you was when you were really, I mean, like, they were calling you mega stars in the essence because it was Fleetwood Mac. But I knew of you before then. Let's go right back and start of when you actually started singing.
Well, I started singing when I was very little because my grandfather was a country singer.
Right.
So my granddad and I sang, seriously, duets, which is why I love to sing duets. And so I started singing, even, my mother says, when I was really a baby.
Right.
And I just always loved to sing, and I never took music classes, and I never took glee club, and I never wanted to do that singing. I just sang by myself all the time. And I got a guitar on my 16th birthday, and I wrote a song that night. And I never stopped writing since. I didn't get a piano until I was about 25. So I played guitar and wrote all my songs on guitar.
Now, even though you were singing with your family in itself and doing duets, in your school days, what did you aspire to be? Was it to be a singer or a musician?
Well, it was always to be a singer.
Yes?
I knew that, I think I always knew that I was not, that I didn't have the innate talent, like, say, Lindsey, at 8 years old, laying around playing the guitar. I mean, he plays the guitar all day long. Well, I played the guitar from when I was 16 until I was, you know, about 25, 6. And I still play a little. But it never came in, that innate ability to be Eric Clapton.
Right.
First, and I waited for it to come in, and it didn't. So when I started to play the piano, it was easier for me because all I had to do was like chord, and I could sit there and figure that out, but on a guitar I was baffled.
Mm.
You know, even though I play real good rhythm guitar, actually. But when I went to the piano, it was like I could sit there for days, you know. And I never had a piano. My family never had a piano. So I started writing pretty much on piano. I am going to, after this tour that I have been tagging along with, I am going to go home and cut my fingernails off, and I'm going to get an electric guitar, and I'm going to start to work with a guitar again, because I wrote a guitar song last night, and it's another part of me that nobody has seen in a long time.
Going back to the first song that you wrote, you said you got the guitar and wrote a song. What musical influences were going around in your mind?
Everly Brothers. I would say the Beatles, except for the fact that when I met Lindsey, he was so insistent that I listened to the Beatles for form. For, like, here's your verse, here's your one bar, and I'm going, this is a bar down the corner, right? I mean, 2 bars, and then there's another verse, and then you have to have a chorus, and now you have to have a bridge, and I'm going over troubled water, and I don't understand this, you know. So I got a little upset with people that I was forced to listen to.
Right.
So I was not forced to listen to the Everly Brothers, and I was not forced to listen to R&B or the Supremes or the Beach Boys, the Four Tops.
But forced to listen to the Beatles?
But forced to listen to the Beatles. And as much as I love the Beatles, it's like, you know, nobody likes to be, you know, and dig this, also the Kingston Trio. So somewhere between the Beatles and the Kingston Trio, I kind of burned out a little bit and said, you know, in my own self, quietly, I'm going to go and find what I want to sing and listen to, even though I'll sing what you want me to do and you want me to do and you want me to do when I'm with you. But in my own private time, I'm going to sing to Diana Ross, and I'm going to sing to Aretha Franklin. And that's just the way it is.
Okay, so when did you then start taking it seriously in the essence that it was going to be your career and that you would have to work extremely hard to even make something of it, especially in America where everyone wanted to be a singer?
But you see, for me, it was never... I joined... Okay, I met Lindsey. I love to tell this story. I met Lindsey at a like a kind of a religious meeting called Young Life that they used to have in high school, when I went to high school. And of course everybody just went, of course, to just get out of the house and go and really go to a party. And I met Lindsey, and he was sitting there just gorgeous, playing his guitar. And I walked over to him, and we sang California Dreaming. And we sang it perfect, and I'd never met him before. He was a year younger than me, so he was a junior and I was a senior. And I didn't see him again after that night until about 2 years later. And I was like 2 years into junior college. And he called me up and asked me if I wanted to be in a rock and roll band. And I had been, of course, very much Joan Baez.
Right.
And, you know, very much, and I never got over those blue eyes. But I was also going, take another little piece of my heart now, baby. Because I was also real into Janis Joplin. And I was really into Jimi Hendrix. And, like, nobody knew this. My parents knew because my room was, like, dancing all the time.
Right.
And I said, sure. I had no idea. For the next 5 years of my life, not only would I have this relationship with Lindsey Buckingham, but I would also go to college, 5 years, going straight through junior to upper college,
right.
and have to drive from Stanford University down to Menlo Atherton, which is like an hour on the freeway at 5:30, and practice until midnight, and then drive back, and also study. And they weren't going to college, so they didn't really care.
So what was your motivation to be?
I wanted to be in a rock and roll band.
Right.
And I also realized that I'd found in Lindsey a duet singer, which was my grandfather, right? Which
right.
was that close Everly Brother thing that I have, which is what Lindsey and I are really famous for, is that fifth, you know, if he's singing this one, I'm singing just an ever so slightly tiny bit higher than him.
Right.
And it's Scottish almost, sort of. And also I'd found an incredible guitar player, you know, who could play anything and who could sit and play you any song, you know. And of course he found in me a whole lot of trouble because I could very easily sit down and with one note go do, 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 and write a song not knowing anything about the guitar, which to this day upsets him and everybody else because something, you know, just says, okay. And I just sit down and I play and it's like, it's not great, but it's a great skeleton. It's a great skeletal thing to give to you and say, here it is. It's very simple. Go ahead and make it into a, you know, make it into a Bo Diddley song, make it into a Led Zeppelin song, make it into a Lindsey Buckingham, Stevie Nicks song, make it into a Stevie Nicks song, you know, which was usually the last on the priority, but that was all right because I needed to learn.
Okay, so there's this relationship with yourself and Lindsey as far as performers are concerned. To go into and get a recording contract, how did you do that?
We moved to Los Angeles in beginning of 1972. We got in my Toyota that was Lindsey named the Pocket for in the pocket, right, in the group.
Right.
And we drove to LA and we lived with Keith Olsen, who was our producer,
right.
who basically kind of like saw us on the only like little tour we ever did with Leon Russell, which was 4 shows with Leon Russell, Salt Lake City, San Diego.
How did you get that?
I don't know. But however we got it, I was going, if I had to carry the piano, it didn't matter. And so I got to stand on the side of the stage for 4 nights and watch Leon Russell play. And I mean, that's an influence. He was very much an influence of mine. And so Lindsey and I were seen by Keith Olsen. And so he moved, like, he said the whole band came down to Los Angeles. We stayed at, like, the Tropicana Hotel, right? Which is the worst place in the world. But in the scheme of your rock and roll life, everybody needs to stay there for a night. And we got, well, what happened was that the band ended up breaking. They ended up really driving everybody else in the band away. And which is what drove Lindsey and I together, because Lindsey and I were never going together in all the 3.5 years that we were in the Fritz Rehbein Memorial Band. Can you believe this name? We were both going with someone else. And what happened really, the reason Lindsey and I ever started really going together was because it was kind of so cruel that these people in Los Angeles had decided to break this band up. And they succeeded. They broke it up. And so the other 3 members who were really very good, and they only took me because they knew that they weren't going to get Lindsey without me, and also as a little kind of backup to Lindsey.
Mm-hmm.
So we signed the Buckingham Nicks contract, and we did an album that is now ours. Actually, Lindsey and I bought it.
It's an album you shouldn't be.
And we may just go back in and like remix it a little bit and maybe do a little singing on it. And because it's a very good album. I sat in a room with Lindsey for 9 months in his father's coffee plant, a little tiny room, littler than this, while we did half of the songs on that record on a 4-track Ampex. Like we'd go when the workers went home. We'd go at 7 o'clock and we'd stay until 6:30, all night long, up by the Cow Palace in San Francisco. And I would sit there every night, all night long, and listen like, to him, put like the lead on So Afraid, or the 7-minute acoustical version of Frozen Love, which he just plays all the way through.
Okay, so the initial success of that album, then it starts travelling into what was probably one of the most incredible emergences of two Americans with a very established English band. How did that happen? I mean, I've heard many stories, but...
All right, I'm going to conceptualize this and put it into a small... I love these stories, really. Lindsey and I lived in an apartment on Fairfax and Orange Grove.
In L.A.?
Yes, in Los Angeles, right, from Cantor's, down from Cantor's. And Richard Dashett, who ended up to be one of our producers because we took Richard with us, we weren't going alone. And I guess Mick Fleetwood just went out to a studio in Los Angeles that's out in the valley that's called Sound City. It's right across the freeway from like this huge brewery, beer brewery. So you can never get lost because you always smell beer and know that you're coming upon Sound City. So you turn off and you go to this place. And he went there to check out Keith Olsen's work. So Keith put on Frozen Love, you know, which is the dun 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 dun. And what did Fleetwood Mac need? They needed a guitar player. And in Frozen Love, Lindsey does an incredible job he plays, that's a live thing all the way through, straight. And he's also an incredible lead guitar player when he wants to be. And Mick Fleetwood said, here is Peter Green for us.
Right.
And the fact that we know, as history says, they already had a lady singer, they didn't really need another one, did
Well,
they?
I've got to get on to that in a moment.
But the thing is that they needed a guitar player bad enough to say, well, you know, we'll take her. If she's good, good. If she's not, she's gone, you know. And you know, Fleetwood Mac is a band, and they just go right on, and they are famous for, you know, like their guitar players, you know. Right. So I was a surprise to them, because they didn't expect really anything from me.
Okay, so Mick Fleetwood takes on Lindsey and yourself.
Right.
You suddenly then are becoming a band.
Right.
Now, I mean...
And not even suddenly. It was like, the reason I told you we lived on Orange Grove in Fairfax was because Christine's mother was like very psychic. And the last thing that Chris's mom said to her before she died was, you will find it on Orange Grove. And of course, Christine, with her dry English humor, is sure she's going to be like picking oranges, right, somewhere in an orange grove in California. And they found us on Orange Grove.
Right.
And we became, from the day that we all met at a Mexican restaurant, and they drove up in these two wild Cadillacs, white, like with the fins, you know, and they like clunked up, you know, Lindsey and I are like going, these people are strange. And they get out, and it's like, it was really love at first sight. I mean, it was like, how could you not love these people, you know? So we had dinner, and it was never like, do you want to join the band? It was like, well, rehearsals tomorrow at ICM in the basement, and you'll get paid $200 a week in cash, each of you. And I'm going, we're rich, we're rich. And it was like, it was instant. And I went out and bought all the Fleetwood Mac albums with my last, like, pennies, and listened to every side, back to front, to see if I could find any thematic thing in this band that I felt was something that I could do. And I did. I found a real mystical thing in it. From Christine's songs to Peter's, to the Green Manalishi, to Black Magic Women, to all the things I loved. Some good ballads, some really neat rock and roll, some really good rock and roll stuff. And I loved Peter Green. So I said, yeah, I can blend.
Right. You go into a situation then of where an album is to be done. Fleetwood Mac.
All 40 places.
Right. How in the hell did it happen? And did you ever imagine what was going to happen after that? I know you would probably hope it, but... Fleetwood Mac only took 3 months. From beginning to end. That's 5 wild Indians in one room, all going, I'm the producer, you know, or listen, I know I'm right. And I didn't even ever say that, so we're talking only 4. Mm. And Lindsey is, once again, radically perfectionistic, and it's like, you know, he's going, well, I don't want to be on it then. It's not right. And Lindsey and Stevie
and Chris had to learn to sing together because Christine's very English, you know, and like Lindsey, and I'm kind of like wherever I am. If I'm in Atlanta, I have a Southern accent, and if I'm, you know, in England, and I'm more, it's like, and Lindsey's very like kind of country rock and roll, just to listen to just Lindsey play and sing. So to put these three voices together, especially two of which had been singing for years, was hard. But the one great thing about the English is that they are jovial enough to make a joke out of a lot of things. And this was the only way I think that the three of us learned to sing together. Because it was like Lindsey and I had already practiced for years, you know, and then there was another lady that was like, she had to learn to sing with us too, you know. And that was the hardest part. But the record was done in 3 months, what can I say? We didn't have all the money in the world to spend. We couldn't be indulgent, and nobody knew if it was going to be a hit or not. And for Lindsey and I, we were rich because we were getting like, you know, hundreds of dollar bills a week. I mean, and we were starving.
So, Fleetwood Mac started to take off. Singles were released from it, and suddenly, Stevie Nicks especially, is starting to become a first-class lady as far as a big #1 and a big star. How did you react to that?
I don't think that Stevie Nicks really realized it, because once again, we left and we worked for like 4 months, solid, 4 nights a week, you know, which wasn't, that's why my voice got hurt. And like 1 day off, and then 3 gigs, and 1 day off, and 4 gigs. We were so busy, honestly, and we went everywhere. We went to Grand Junction, Colorado, and to Casper, Wyoming. We went to places where nobody went. So we really did take our music out. And I think that as much as the record, we went out and played it for people, you know. And I mean, it was like, it was an amazing life adjustment for me to literally be doing 3 to 4 shows a night. I mean, not a night, but a week, and then having a day to travel, and like that, the first class ticket, you know. Well, you travel once, and then you work solid. And so the only time you really got to even sit down and rest was when you were on the airplane. And nobody read Billboard. Nobody called home to find out, you know, when you're really touring, you're really wrapped up in your music and what you're doing every night. And I was, you know, I was working out everything in my, you know, Rhiannon is a certain way on the record. Well, Rhiannon turned into a whole nother thing on stage. But I had to work that out in my head every night. When I went to bed, I'd lay in bed and go, now what, you know, what do I want to do in this song? What is, and I'd, you know, and I'd really spend an awful lot of hours thinking about, not about how good we were doing, but about what I wanted to do in my place in 3 people, Lindsey, Christine, and Stevie. And what was I going to do right here in the middle of these 2, you know? How was I going to be?
Well, I mean, you've got one enormous album. You've created sales that no one believed at that stage could be possible, and especially with the combination of the group. You've had major hits off that album. Suddenly, Chrissy, yourself, are 2 major names around the world. How then did you approach the next album? I mean, like, it wasn't that simple.
We never change. Fleetwood Mac never changes. We go in exactly the same every time. There's always electricity. We don't approach an album, really. We just go in. And Lindsey pretty much, you know, he's pretty much the boss. And
to go in and do a Rumours album, I mean, like...
But see, we didn't know when we do Rumours that it was... I mean, we all loved it, but we didn't know that it was going to be that big of a record. And we again went right on the road. And like, you know, when you're out there touring, you don't get a subscription to Billboard or Cashbox or Record World. Right. And nobody's really calling you up and telling you, you know. So it's an elitist thing. The band goes on the road and it's like you live in your world of touring. So
but are you changing?
We're never aware of it.
No, but have you changed since then? I mean, have you changed from the Rhiannon days of being a star and everyone wanting now sort of saying, Stevie Nicks belongs to us, the press say this, television says that. I mean, are you changing at this time? It's not quite the same as
Well,
like doing the first album, is it?
No, but amazingly enough, only because we're older, is it not the same. It's really very much the same. It was always crazy.
Mm.
You know, they are wondering right now why I'm here. And I have to go home and work with them, you know. And that's the radical Stevie, you know. She split to Australia.
Was it frightening you as, number one, as an individual, frightening you as a group, secondly, how big this album was becoming? It just...
No, because we never, as I said, we never checked.
You had to be aware.
So for all those
after a
weeks
while.
that we were on the road and that Rumours was on the charts, once
2.5
again,
years.
nobody got them, you know, we toured for a year, a solid year. And Fleetwood Mac tours for like 8 weeks. Then they take 3.5 weeks off. They tour 8 more weeks. They went to Japan for a year. They went to Australia. I mean, I'm sorry, not Japan for a year. They went to Japan for a month, and then we come to, thank the Lord, Australia for a month. And this is solid. This is no break. And everybody else tours for 3 weeks, and they take 4 weeks off, and it's like, I don't understand this, you know, because I'm from a serious touring band. So we were so busy, Molly, that we didn't really know or really care what the record was doing, because we were walking out, you know, you walk up those stairs every night, and there's, you know, 20,000 people, or 30,000 people, or 50,000 people, or 75,000 people, or 10 people that are there to see you. And it's like, forget it. Everything else doesn't matter, and this is where we most want to be. So no, we're not very aware of what's happening as far as charts go. If you even mention the word single to Lindsey, he'll get angry with you. You know, it's like, don't tell me what a single is, because I don't write singles. And of course, so that rubs off on me from 20 years ago, and also to everybody. It's like, don't tell us to write singles, ever. You know, don't tell Fleetwood Mac to be commercial. Don't tell Stevie Nicks to be commercial. And even Lindsey gets mad at me now. It's like, oh, I'm telling you to be commercial, and I'm going, but nobody told Fleetwood Mac to be commercial. Fleetwood Mac never tried to be commercial, ever.
Rumours have become history. I mean, it is a landmark in rock and roll history. Whether you read charts or not, it is.
It's a big L.
Right, yes, it is a very big album, right? A lot of great songs, incredible songs, 4 top hits, I won't say singles, that were just massive, right? World tours covering an immense amount of countries, absolutely, you know. Then the Tusk album. Why are you laughing?
Well, just because then the Tusk album, the movie, right then my eyes are filling up with funny tears. I wish you could have been there for the 13 months of Tusk.
It took so long.
Yes. And when we moved out of the studio, it looked like your house, right, that we lived in for 100. I mean, there had to be 350,000 Polaroids, plus stuffed animals hanging upside down, you know, and rabbits, and everything that we all owned. I had yarn and crocheting stuff and paints, and Christine's really an art teacher, right? So, I mean, we have like all our art supplies, and we have a digital person I've never understood the whole 13 months why he was there. I called him Mr. Didge. He lived outside the door. For 13 months, we went to the studio every single day at 2 o'clock, and you know that I'm late. And I've been told that sometimes you are late. Well, you are not late for a Fleetwood Mac session. They come and get you and kill you. You know, it's like you don't ever do this again. And so from 2 o'clock in the afternoon, which is a horrifying time of day to even be up, until 8 or 9 the next morning, and then it's like, let's play. Then it's like, let's jam, let's play blues, you know? Like, da, 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 da. And it's like, and you can't leave because you're a part of this band. So Fleetwood Mac would, I mean, and Tusk was like very native, very African. Mick lived in like the jungle in Africa for 5-6 years of his life, right? And so Mick thinks that he's like a Watusi warrior, and he is. And so this whole record, I mean, I would sit and write for days, you know. It was like the tribe, and like this is the sacred steps back up to the top of this sacred mountain of this jungle kind of thing. And that's what Tusk was. And if you ever really listen to Tusk, and listen to it quietly, it's very slow. I listen to it sometimes and I think, these songs are so slow, because it's like Lindsey song, it goes, they said I never would recover, and they said I knew you well. It's like everything on Tusk was very, like, warrior-esque.
Right.
And which was probably one of the reasons why 13 months didn't kill us all, because it was so, it's like we kind of went to another kind of world for Tusk. And I think that Tusk is one of those records that someday people will sit down and listen to and understand what it really was, because I didn't even understand what it was. And I think I'm only now, as I listen to it in my own private time, starting to realize that there was a lot more in Tusk that even I didn't see. Don't say that you love me.
Stevie Nicks is now Stevie Nicks, known to the world.
Right.
Well, you are known to the world.
Yeah, okay.
Especially, I mean, for anyone that follows rock and roll, and most people who follow rock and roll, is basically part of the world in the Western world. The image of Stevie Nicks started to expand beyond belief, because now suddenly video is a huge thing.
And starting with Gypsy, though.
Exactly.
Okay.
So then now let's get on to Gypsy. Because by now, even though he's a friend of mine, he was one of the pioneers, or major pioneers, of video, and a very talented person.
And also...
Accused also, though, by me, I might say, that he goes over the top.
Well, you know...
You said before, you thought it was going to be a disaster.
We did. Because once again, you know, you put five, it's like I would always think the Buffalo Springfield, you put 5 people, especially that aren't used to ever doing any filming of any kind, in a room and try to tell them what to do, and it's like, I thought this is a disaster, you know. And Russell said to me, this is my film.
Right.
And everybody will do what I say. And the thing is that he came to my house for like 2 hours, and he like looked through my closet, and he looked at my things and my crystal balls and all my stuff that I have. And I thought that he was like going to be like a lot more like, and he wasn't. He never raised his voice to anybody in Fleetwood Mac. He was totally, completely calm. And nobody in Fleetwood Mac ever raised their voice to him.
A brilliant film clip.
A brilliant film clip, which was, for me, like, I wish we could find a producer like Russell, a producer of music like Russell for Fleetwood Mac, because the way he handled those 5 people was so, it was like the best mom in the world, you know, that just handled all 10 of those kids perfect.
Right.
And that's what he did, and I was amazed. You know, in Gypsy, there's a part where I come around this like lamp post and I look, and you think I'm looking at Mick, right? Because Mick's driving up in the truck. Well, I'm not. I'm looking at Russell. And Russell's like, you know, and then when Mick drives up, Mick's not just looking at me, Mick's looking at me and Russell, who are both like vibing him, you know. And it's like, and the looks between Mick and I think, are so intense there. But it wasn't just Mick and I, it was Mick and I and Russell. And it was easy. And it all comes down to you, where you know that it does rain, lightning strike.
Okay, Russell's directed you in Gypsy. A couple of years later, Russell said to me, one of the most frustrating things is that to meet Stevie Nicks and to meet, of all other people, Martha Davis, they both could have been great actresses.
That's a very nice thing to say.
Did you ever have any?
No.
No?
No, because I don't like to be, as you know, if I'm having to worry about how I look and how I, you know, if I'm getting older, or if, you know, I'm not 95 pounds, if I have to worry about that, it takes away from my being a rock and roll singer. And that's what I am. So that bothers me. And for me also to be told what to say is really hard. So I never, and to repeat and repeat and repeat. I'm really an entertainer.
Right.
I'm not a studio. You know, I'm not a perfectionist. I'm an entertainer, a live entertainer.
Well, you're a songwriter, singer, and performer. All right, going back to Sarah, did that hurt you when that lawsuit happened?
If the girl had called me up and asked me and told me, which she did, and of course I did
You're talking
answer.
About lyrics.
Right, I did answer the phone. This woman called me, and she told me her story, and I told her mine,
right.
Very honestly. And if she had just left it at that, I probably would have, you know, said, which I did say, maybe the same star hit us both at the same time.
Right.
Maybe the same words came through to you and me at the same time, very similar. That's all right, I accept that. And I'd probably have given her half of that song. But what she did was she talked to me, and she was real nice, and I was real vulnerable and real naive, and I really told her exactly the truth. And she sued me, and she had me subpoenaed, and that made me angry.
Does it also make you angry that you are very vulnerable?
No,
just being Stevie Nicks?
Because if I'm not vulnerable, I won't ever write any more songs about vulnerability.
Right.
And then what am I doing? I need to help people. I need to make people believe that it's all right to be vulnerable and to be a little naive and to be still sweet and kind and good.
Okay, so there is Stevie Nicks, superstar, has gone through the rigours of being a rock star, of being married, of having that exploding in the papers, of having the accolades of sort of one of the biggest groups in the world, of being sued because of lyrics. Did you ever feel at that stage, is this worth it?
And still she lives in her ivory chamber. Yeah, I wonder sometimes, but I never wonder enough to ever stop doing this, no.
Right.
They can't hurt me, because the people that listen to me sing, the kids in Australia, the kids in the United States, the kids in Europe, anybody, my friends, you know, you, anybody that wants me to sit down and sing for them, yeah, that makes it worth it.
Okay, to go into a solo career, how hard was that?
Very difficult. And so come the words of Belladonna.
Right.
About this is life, you know, this is the fast lane. And you never thought that your face would become thin, but it did. And you are in love with, and I'm ready to say, because I'm going to still do this, with or without you.
Right.
So, also coming out of the darkness, yeah, coming out of the darkness. I thought I was in a little bit of darkness. And because I just needed to sing and to be with people and to work with people. And I had become so cloistered that I had no much life at all. And certainly, as we already spoke of 3 songs per writer, right? Well, I write 3 songs in 3 months, or 3 songs sometimes in 3 weeks, or sometimes 3 songs in 2 days. And so I'm down to 3 songs of my life experience for 3 years, basically. So yeah, that's difficult. So at some point, if you're a really prolific songwriter and you want to be able to walk to that piano, and as Christine calls me, the mad songwriter, and not feel stupid about writing another song, or have somebody walk by and say, oh great, you're writing another song. I don't want to feel that, and that's why I went to do a solo career, because I need to write even if nobody ever hears it.
Okay, suddenly a third thing happened, which was almost a landmark as well. I've spoken about the female singing part of leading a group, both you and Chrissy. The video as
No,
far
but I
as
never
American.
led that group.
Well, sorry?
I didn't
No,
lead
I'm
that
just simply saying you two as
Okay.
singers, right? Which was
A team.
an untold thing at that stage. And becoming huge. The video, as far as making a video, which Americans weren't doing at that stage or taking it too seriously.
Right. But we knew they were taking it seriously here, because when we came here, there was nothing but videos on TV.
Right.
And that was before MTV.
Yeah. The third thing is that he was a major star linking up then with another star in Tom Petty and doing duets, which has become, well, I mean, one would think these days that it was always done, no?
Which is right back.
It was never done.
No, it was right back to my grandfather. It was right back to country music, you know.
Going back then to your rock and roll thing, which we were talking about before, Tom Petty. Your association, as far as records are concerned, and your great love for bands.
And the Heartbreakers, and the Eagles, and Fleetwood Mac, and Led Zeppelin are about the only bands I know. And Pete Townsend and The Who.
Right.
That's it. There's no other bands in this world.
Right. Okay, Tom and you doing a thing together, and then you becoming literally part of that band for a while, you know? Was it a sympathy thing because Stevie's a female?
A little bit. I need a little, she says, I need a little sympathy. Yeah, a little, because they let me be an honorary heartbreaker.
Right. Okay, so Belladonna happens. And again, it's a hit. You can't stop having it.
But nobody raves about it.
What do you mean no one raves about it?
In my world. Belladonna is a hit, as was Rumours a hit. Nobody raved about it in our world. It's like Belladonna, I guess, was a hit,
Oh, I see.
but nobody really told me. Nobody told me about it.
Right.
Nobody told me that they were raving. So I wasn't aware that anybody was raving.
Mm.
So you know what I guess I'm trying to say to you, Molly, is that it's very easy to sail through these records without really noticing too much, because you're going so fast, and nobody's calling you up and saying, telling you anything. So you just kind of do your gigs, and what becomes really important is that live performance, you know, is that walking out on the stage,
the
and
live
that's it.
performance is very important.
And yeah, I can sit here and sing to you right now.
No, but
any of those records.
Right, I've got to argue here.
Okay.
The live performance is important. However, there is a million and millions out there watching video.
Right.
So they may not see
all right.
Stevie could be in England.
But I'm making the videos too now.
Right.
Which is something I don't like to do.
Well, that's what I was saying with Stand Back. It was such an unbelievable, simple video.
Right. And then, of course...
And which defied all this over-the-top costs.
In complete confidence over international Australian TV, I should tell you about the first Stand Back, which I did my own horseback riding, and was like, you know, incredible to a point. But it wasn't right, and I freaked out, and I said, I don't really, you know, Fleetwood Mac didn't have to make videos to sell records. So at this point I said, take it back. And I redid Stand Back with Jeffrey Hornaby, who choreographed Flashdance. Now you have to know that this sent me into waves of panic, because I am not a dancer, and I am certainly not like, you know, like what's her name in Flashdance, right? So I am afraid. And I make this video, right? And I have my kind of gang of dancers who are all going like this, and it's wonderful. And I meet this guy named Brad, who choreographs all my videos to this day, and who puts up with a lot from me because he knows that I'm sweet and he doesn't want to hurt my feelings, you know? It's difficult, because I'm a rock and roll singer. I'm a rock and roll singer.
I know that.
I am not a model. I'm not an actress.
But still,
I will never, ever be able to model for Vogue.
I wish I had never told you what Russell had said. But why
However.
not? Why not? Why not?
Because I'm only 5 foot 1 inches tall. And because, you know what? I don't care about being pretty that much. What I want to do is I want to sing to you. No one look, I walk by.
Stevie Nicks, superstar, could be classed as I don't know, of how Madonna is these days, and perhaps Whitney Houston in the future.
But I'm so much older than they are, Mark.
Sure, but and still as pretty. But here you are in their same league. I mean, I see you walk tall with those
Because
people.
why? Because
you're
they are
talented.
the great singers.
Because you're talented too.
Great players.
You don't think you're talented?
But I want to go and see the great singers and the great players.
Right, in the meantime, you have got a solo album out, which people say, and I agree, is your best effort. I mean, it's a great album. You have got some great songs on it, and I don't have to, well, perhaps I should tell you about the charts. It's roaring up the charts here. It's huge in America. And you're here.
And I want to be here.
And the least you seem to be concerned about is Stevie Nicks' this superstar solo image.
The least I am concerned about is her.
You love rock and roll that much?
I love rock and roll that much.
It's a unique thing.
It's the most special thing in my life.
During this interview, you've talked about that you're a lot older than, say, Madonna.
I am.
Or Whitney Houston or whatever, you know?
I am.
Yet you show the enthusiasm and the want, one probably even above them, of wanting to, of listening to you, of saying, I'm going to do some film directing. I love it, you know?
And photography.
And photography.
And interview you.
No way.
Yes,
But I'm
yes,
like,
yes, yes.
But I mean, but you know what I mean? I mean, like, you've got that enthusiasm. Where do you get it from? Is it part of, that was bred in your family?
No, I
Must
think
come from
it's really
somewhere.
from God. I think it's really from the spirits. I think it's really from the little jazz spirit that hangs over my head and the little rock and roll spirit that hangs over my head. And
Well, you were talking before about, you've written a song with your brother.
yeah, and the little brother spirit that hangs over my head.
Right. Is your family that important?
My family is so important to me that last night in the middle of the night I started to cry because I miss my brother and I needed to call him and I didn't have any phone numbers. I don't have anybody's phone number because I don't have a book. And I needed to talk to Christopher because I just needed for somebody to tell me that it's all okay. And yeah, my family is very, very important to me. And you are important to me, and all the people that come to see me are important to me.
Well, I don't have to wish you luck for your best, for your solo album, because it's already going to be a hit. I wish you luck with Fleetwood Mac, with the forthcoming album. I wish you luck with everything else, because, quite frankly, you're one of the most enjoyable people that I've ever met and talked to, and one of the most honest. And I thank you for that.
Well, and I have to say one thing to you, too. I've been interviewed by many people, many, many great people, and I think this is probably the nicest and most really true to my heart interview that I've ever really done. And I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Steve.